The gates of hell. A look at the worst prisons. Welcome back to the Guardian File, you magnificent bastards. Today we're diving headfirst into the septic tank of the justice system and examining the festering turds we call the 15 worst prisons in the world. These shitholes abandon all pretense of human decency, becoming black holes of despair where hope goes to die. So buckle up, Buttercup, because we're about to explore the horrors that have cemented these prisons in the annals of infamy. ADX Florence Supermax Lockdown. This is where the most dangerous and notorious criminals in the United States are sent. A place designed to contain those deemed too risky for regular prisons. First up, we find ourselves in the land of the free, home of the brave, and, ironically, some of the most punishing prisons on earth. The contrast between the ideals of freedom and the reality of such harsh confinement is stark. Nestled in the picturesque Rocky Mountains of Colorado sits ADX Florence, a monument to solitary confinement so extreme it'd make a Buddhist monk lose his marbles. The serene landscape outside belies the harsh conditions within. We're talking 23 hours a day in a concrete box, the size of your average walk-in closet. Imagine spending nearly every moment of your life in a space so small, with nothing but your thoughts for company. Your 1 hour of recreation involves shuffling around another concrete box, only slightly larger by yourself, of course. This hour is the only time you see the sky, but even then, it's through a mesh-covered ceiling. The psychological effects of this kind of isolation are devastating. Studies have shown that prolonged solitary confinement can lead to severe mental health issues, including depression, anxiety, and hallucinations. ADX. Florence houses some of the most notorious criminals in America, terrorists, mob bosses, and folks who just really didn't want to pay their taxes. These are individuals who have committed heinous crimes, but does that justify such extreme measures? Even if you believe in an eye for an eye, you have to ask yourself, at what cost? The ethical implications of such treatment are profound, raising questions about human rights and the true purpose of incarceration. Are we so afraid of these inmates that we're willing to break them mentally and emotionally? The fear of what they might do if they escape seems to justify any means necessary to keep them contained. It strips away your humanity, leaving you a shell of your former self. The isolation, the lack of human contact, and the constant surveillance all contribute to a sense of hopelessness and despair. In the end, we must consider whether such extreme measures are truly necessary, or if there are more humane ways to ensure public safety while respecting the dignity of all individuals. Bank Kwang Central Prison, the Bangkok Hilton, not so much. And now let's hop on over to sunny Thailand, where the beaches are beautiful, the food is spicy, and the culture is rich and vibrant. Thailand is a country that attracts millions of tourists every year, all eager to experience its unique charm and hospitality. But behind the picturesque scenes and the warm smiles, there's a darker side that most tourists never see. The prisons, well, let's just say they're not exactly known for their 5-star accommodations. Case in point, Bank Kwang Central Prison, affectionately nicknamed the Bangkok Hilton. This nickname, however, is steeped in irony. Overcrowding is a massive problem here. The prison was built to house a certain number of inmates, but it far exceeds that capacity. Imagine cramming as many people as you can into a studio apartment with no regard for comfort or space, then taking away the bathroom, the ventilation, and any semblance of personal space. The conditions are beyond inhumane. Inmates are forced to live in such close quarters that personal space becomes a distant memory. Inmates are packed in like sardines in a can, with barely enough room to breathe, let alone lie down. The lack of space is suffocating. With barely enough room to breathe, let alone lie down, many prisoners are forced to sleep on the floor, often in shifts. Diseases spread like wildfire in these cramped, filthy conditions. The lack of hygiene and sanitation makes it a breeding ground for illness. And medical care is, shall we say, inadequate at best. Many inmates suffer from untreated illnesses with little hope of receiving proper medical attention. But the real kicker? Many of the inmates at Bank Kwang haven't even been convicted of a crime yet. They are held in these dire conditions without a verdict. They're stuck in this hellhole awaiting trial, sometimes for years on end. The legal process is slow and often unjust. Sometimes for years on end they wait, hoping for a resolution that seems perpetually out of reach. The Bangkok Hilton come for the ironic nickname which belies the harsh reality within its walls, stay for the soul-crushing despair. It's a place where hope is a rare commodity and survival is a daily struggle. Black Beach, where brutality reigns supreme? From the tropical paradise of Thailand, we find ourselves in a place that makes even the seediest Bangkok back alley look like Disneyland. Welcome to Black Beach Prison in Equatorial Guinea, a country whose name apparently doubles as a description of its penal system. This isn't just a prison, it's a testament to the depths of human cruelty. Torture is so commonplace at Black Beach it practically qualifies as a recreational activity for the guards. And if the physical abuse doesn't break you, the rampant disease surely will. The prison is severely overcrowded, with inmates packed together like battery hens. Corruption is so ingrained in this godforsaken place that inmates often have to bribe guards just to get a scrap of food or a sip of clean water. Black Beach is a stark reminder that in some corners of the world, justice is a foreign concept. Chapter 4. Black Dolphin Prison. Swimming with the sharks. Let's pack our bags and head over to Russia, a country not exactly known for its lenient judicial system. Nestled in the icy tundra near the Kazakhstan border, we find Black Dolphin Prison. A place so bleak, it makes Siberia look like a tropical getaway. This is where Russia sends its most hardened criminals, serial killers, terrorists, and anyone else who really pissed off Vladimir Putin. Inmates at Black Dolphin are subjected to a level of dehumanization that would make Orwell blush. They're stripped of their names, given numbers, and treated like animals. Inmates are blindfolded whenever they leave their cells and forced to walk bent double like human camels. Black Dolphin is a chilling example of what happens when a government prioritizes punishment over rehabilitation. Chapter 5. Butyrka Prison, a legacy of brutality. We're sticking around Russia for our next stop, but trust me, this one's no picnic either. This time, we're venturing into the heart of Moscow, where a crumbling edifice stands as a monument to centuries of suffering. Butyrka Prison. Overcrowding is so bad here that inmates often have to take turns sleeping. Disease is rampant, and medical care is about as effective as a band-aid on a bullet wound. Beatings are commonplace, and extortion is practically a cottage industry within the prison walls. Inmates often have to pay bribes to guards for everything from extra food to the privilege of not being beaten senseless. Butyrka is a stark reminder that even in the 21st century, some prisons remain mired in the dark ages. Chapter 6. Camp 14, North Korea's open secret. Buckle up, Buttercup, because we're about to enter a whole new level of messed up. Welcome to Camp 14, North Korea's most notorious political prison camp. Hidden away in the mountains, this isn't just a prison, it's a black hole from which few ever escape. People are sent to Camp 14 based on the flimsiest of accusations, criticizing the government, practicing religion, or even just being related to someone who did something the regime didn't like. Inmates are forced to work grueling 12-hour days in mines, fields, or factories, all while subsisting on a starvation diet of watery gruel and whatever scraps of food they can scavenge. Torture and executions are commonplace, often for the slightest infraction. Camp 14 is a chilling reminder that some regimes will go to any lengths to maintain their grip on power. Chapter 7. Ciudad Barrios. Welcome to Gangland. For our final stop, we find ourselves south of the border in El Salvador, a country grappling with gang violence, poverty, and a prison system bursting at the seams. This small Central American nation has been plagued by these issues for decades, creating a volatile environment where survival is a daily struggle for many. And nowhere is this more evident than in Ciudad Barrios Prison, a place where the guards are often just as dangerous as the inmates. The prison, originally built to house a few hundred inmates, now holds thousands, creating a pressure cooker of tension and violence. This is a place where rival gangs rule the roost, and violence is as commonplace as sunshine. The constant power struggle between these gangs turns the prison into a battleground, where every day is a fight for dominance and survival. The prison is overflowing with members of MS-13 and Barrio 18, two of the most ruthless gangs in the world. These gangs have a long history of violence and rivalry, and their presence in Ciudad Barrios only exacerbates the already dire conditions. The guards, often outgunned and outnumbered, have largely ceded control of the prison to the gangs. With limited resources and support, they struggle to maintain any semblance of order, often resorting to brutal tactics themselves. Violence is a constant threat. Stabbings, beatings, and even riots are regular occurrences, turning the prison into a gladiatorial arena where only the strongest survive. The lack of effective oversight and control means that these violent outbreaks can happen at any moment, with devastating consequences. Ciudad Barrios is a stark reminder that even in the Americas, prisons can become breeding grounds for violence and despair. The overcrowded conditions, combined with the pervasive influence of gangs, create an environment where hope is a rare commodity and survival is the only goal. Outrow locking up humanity. Well, folks, there you have it. A whirlwind tour of some of the most horrific prisons on the planet. But before you descend into a spiral of existential despair, remember this: even in the darkest corners of the world, there are people fighting for change. There are organizations working tirelessly to expose human rights abuses, advocate for prison reform, and bring a glimmer of hope to those who have had it stolen from them. Because even small acts of resistance can chip away at the walls of injustice.